When you hear the sound of the bell, ladies and gentlemen, you know you are in here with the one and only King Amin of Essex. And today I have a very special guest. I like to say he's a friend of mine, even though we're separated by a huge body of water. We got boxing in our blood, boxing in our veins, and boxing on our mind. Ladies and gentlemen, I like to present to you my brethren, Scotty Goodard, y'all.
Yo, guys. Yeah, my name's Scotty Goodard. Just started coming off the bat from a white collar fight. Going to be having plenty more and hope to go pro one day.
So let's talk a little bit about that because I always go on this whole thing, boxing saves lives. But people kind of gloss over that and they think it's the fitness part.
Yeah.
How'd you get into boxing? Why boxing? And I know the UK football is big out there, but boxing
Yeah.
is. Tell us, how did you get boxing in your journey within the sport?
Well, I'll tell you what, at first, I just generally used to be, as a kid, I was always obsessed with fighting, just watching it. And like you say, even football, that get violent in the UK over here. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah.
Get violent all the time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's pretty basic. I'm obsessed with it, really. Just anything to do with fighting.
And it was just that easy for you. So when you got to, well, let me ask you, what is it easy making the transition from just kind of, being a little rough on the roads versus getting into the gym?
Yeah, it's a lot different, but at the same time, it's not, because you're used to the like, I don't know how you put it in words, but you're used to the fighting and all sorts. But then there's other parts of it that discipline you and you never had.
And you know what I think when I hear you say that, I think about how we talk about somebody having dog in them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we watch certain fighters and we look at their skill set being very good, but then we question as to why they're not able to pull the trigger, why they lack. And I'm just using an example, no shade to anybody, but when you look at a Gabriel Flores, a lot of people see him as a very talented fighter, but the Adrian Broner see him as a talented fighter, but they see something is missing. And maybe they don't have that really desire. You know what I'm saying? Everybody doesn't have the desire to mix it up, to take the bumps. People like to give out the licks, but don't nobody want to get licked.
No, yeah. Well, Adrian Bronner's definitely one of them, but yeah.
Yeah, so and you said white collar bouts. Tell it those that might not know. I know what it is. Sometimes they call them smokers over here. Tell us a little bit about what that entails.
Well, they're a bit more different to the amateurs. They're more of like a huge event thing as well with the white collar shows, and that they do it as a full on thing. Like, you're there in front of 600 people, and people are getting pissed, rowdy, shouting at you, drinking the man. Whereas you don't really get that much in amateurs. It's a bit more serious, isn't it? Like the crowd and stuff. Like, they're actually there to watch, and like, do you know what I mean? Then there's hardcore boxing in it. But with the white collar scene, a lot of people just come there to smash your face in. Sometimes they just want to fight.
So these are guys that some of them may have training, historically throughout their life, and these are some guys that just they feel like they tough enough and they just want to go in there and see.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
Yeah. And what's how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing it for a whole year now, But I was on and off in gyms for ages, just sparring people, and I thought, what am I doing? Why ain't I fighting yet? So I had to get myself in the ring, and then here I am.
So sparring, I often call these sessions like sparring. We're using our boxing IQ, and I love good sparring. So thank you for joining me and sharing that part. Let's get to some sparring. Let's mix it up. And I made this more UK centric because I know you're my guy over there. Let's talk about Daniel Dubois.
Oh, lovely.
Tell me, what do you think is next for him?
I tell you what, it has to be a top 5 level heavyweight, top 5. I personally would like to see him against Dillian Whyte. A lot of people say they don't want that fight, but I think that's a great matchup. Dillian Whyte's coming off the edge of his career now, and Daniel Dubois is now starting. So
I love that fight. I also love the Chisora fight, where Chisora is in a big resurgence right now. I love the Chisora fight, and I think people have more fear for Daniel than he does for himself. I think he's over the whole eye issue. He came to America like Eddie Murphy in '88 and got that title from Daniel Bryan. Still ain't probably get paid from Don King, but he's crafting quite a reputation, right? He's okay with the Joe Joyce rematch. I mean, Daniel Dubois got a lot of opportunities, I think. Does he get the same recognition on Seaside?
Yeah, he
Good.
definitely does. And yeah, without a doubt.
Good. Because one thing I can say the difference in our audience is the UK, you guys don't throw your guys away over one loss. You guys keep them, nourish them, support them. Over here, dispose of them. The one loss, and it's kind of this whole perverted thing of you don't have so you're not a good
I
fighter.
noticed that.
Meanwhile, you talk about somebody like Daniel Garcia or any fighter that's only lost to the best in the division, and we're ready to throw them away. I don't get why we do that over here. And you guys,
no, I think that comes originally from like the I hate to say it, but Floyd Mayweather and stuff, because obviously he's big out there in the US. That O is so important to a lot of people, isn't it? And I think he started that off almost.
yeah, and it's a shame what that whole idea has done, because remember, we got a lot of great fighters. You take a loss, you look at any fighter that's taken a loss recently, Deontay Wilder. We have him, and I say we as in the fans, even though I don't consider myself that morbid, but he's carefully choosing his opponents, because remember, he only lost to the best fucking heavyweight in the world.
Definitely.
Okay? And why should he be ashamed of losing to the best heavyweight in the world?
And that's what I mean. People are like, oh, it's over. It's over for... No, it's not. He would probably batter majority of these heavyweights. In fact, I say all of them, apart from Tyson Fury.
And thank you for saying that, because people got it all twisted. They don't understand that in the UK, there's a lot of respect for Deontay Wilder. I don't think people get that.
Yeah, there is. There is a lot of respect. Like a lot of people, if you was to walk down the street today and say, who is the second best heavyweight in the world, people would probably just say straight off the bat, Deontay Wilder.
That's good to hear, man. That's good to hear. Let's talk about some other things that straight off the bat would people say, because I know you're in the know. People asking for this Conor Benn Eubank Jr. fight, or is this just something a money grab, or people asking for it?
Well, people are asking for it, definitely. Yeah, I'd love to see it. What I think the weight is at 150, isn't it? 155?
Something weird like that, yeah.
It'd be great, but I think it is a huge risk for Conor Benn in his career. He's still young, and I think that's a big risk. I mean, as much as people, I know a lot of people talk shit about Eubank, but really, he is a good boxer, hands down. He's a good boxer, and I just feel like, I don't mean to like let Conor down or anything, but I think maybe Eubank might be a bit too experienced for him.
Yeah, and I think the size difference is not good with two guys that their dads are cool now, but with the legacies on the line, both men are willing to leave it in the ring, I think, and that could be not necessary. So let me wind it back a bit. Conor Benn, I love where he's going with it, especially ever since he cut the braids. He's like on some James Bond shit, jumping out of Ferraris. I love it, right?
Yeah.
I think he's got a lot of work to do. And we're going to get into it, because I think he needs the winner of McKinson and Vergil Ortiz, but we're going to get to that. Chris Eubank, why not fight a Boo Boo Andrade? Why not fight a Jamal Charlo? I think there's so many more fights that's in that weight class that can happen first. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll tell you what, I think Eubank, him thinking about that fight with Ben and stuff, I think he probably feel like that's an easy night. So he's going to blower onto that until he get the fight. That's a good payday for him. And he probably is overlooking Conor Benn. But I would like to see him against Boo Boo. Personally, I would love to see that. Or even a rematch with Billy Joe.
Great call. Great call. Because remember, the only person that Eubank lost to was Billy, but again, how could you lost to Billy Joe? That's not a bad loss. Billy Joe was boxing everybody's head off.
Definitely, yeah.
And man, so just reaching more for the climate of what's going on in the UK. we got the big bout. Now, women's boxing, it's getting more notoriety stateside. Again, I got to tip my hat to the UK because I first started learning more about women's boxing, and I'm about to show off a little bit. I learned about women's boxing through Natasha Jonas, Sandy Ryan, of course, Ebony Bridges. We're talking obviously Savannah Marshall. It's been a great scene over there. Did I say Chantel Cameron?
No, but you did now.
But you get what I'm saying? Like, and the United States hasn't fared as well. All we've got is Claressa Shields. So I'm guessing with already what I feel is a bigger presence of women's boxing in the UK, is this making some noise like that, or is it still kind of mums?
Well, I tell you what, I got into women's boxing after watching the blonde bomber herself, Ebony Bridges.
Yeah. And, easy to get into it after watching Ebony Bridges. I just got to say that. But go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I got into it then, and then I started watching things, and then I've now watched the build up between Shields and Marshall, and I like it how they're actually starting to show it a bit more on these like boxing events. I will say a lot of them were like people would overlook women's boxing and wouldn't really talk about it. But what changed a lot of people's minds is what happened in Madison Square Garden with Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano.
Big. That was big. And thankfully, I was there, and I had goosebumps. They had whole... Man, listen, go check my IG page. I was in the building, great seats. Shout out to my brother, London Runs Boxing. Man, listen, I was in the building for that one, and it was lovely. And I think... You're right. That fight did it. And I'm going to swing this from another angle. Are you familiar with Mikaela Mayer and Alycia Baumgardner? Because Baumgardner was the one that beat another name, Terry Harper. Salute to GB Box.
Promoting.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. With that fight, is there a chance you think that the Mayer-Baumgardner fight could perhaps steal the show of the Shields-Marshall bout?
100%. Yeah, the way it's going as well at a minute with the promotion and stuff. I'm seeing it everywhere anyway on my page. So, I think that could do that.
And I got to say this. I'm going to be the one to say it because we have to be fair about marketing. I think, respectfully, that with Mayer and Baumgardner, you have two women that have a big social media following and the way they present themselves outside of the ring, whereas you might have Shields and Marshall more, I don't want to use the phrase tomboy, but they're more comfortable, being where you have, again, respectfully, these people are so shitty about these terms, but you have a little bit more of the girly girls in both Mayer and Baumgardner, but they're getting nastier with each other.
Yeah.
Calling each other old and also like that fight has a lot of personal animosity. And I think that it's getting to, levels
it's down to the girly girl. Like you say, it's down to that.
Yeah. And I think
people are like, shit, do you know what I mean? Like these girls are snapping back. Whereas when you get them very serious and like they almost do act like a bloke, no offense. But like it's not really entertaining, is it? Like all the time for some people. I'm entertained full stop. I love boxing anyway.
Sure.
But some people will be entertained by the fire.
And we have to speak about those things because all we want is more exposure for the sport. And we're simply pointing out avenues for which the sport can grow. And we would tell anybody, I mean, I don't think anybody's the difference between me and Anthony Joshua, right? AJ is buttoning this all the way down because he can do that because he's got the Hugo Boss endorsements. People like looking at AJ in a suit. Me, not so much. And if people are going to be naive and think that there's not a particular audience or a crowd that tunes into fighters because of their marketability in certain aspects, I think we're being naive. So, just pointing that out within the sport.
Yeah.
So also, let's talk a little bit about, I just want to throw this in here. The Jake Paul, because this was supposed to be this weekend, the whole Jake Paul Rockman thing. Where do you land on who's to blame in this whole situation?
Well, I'll tell you what, I do believe that Rockman has obviously, I think he has been effortless with the weight and stuff. But I think they could have come down to something, or maybe Jake could have, I want to say maybe he could have found a replacement, but it is hard. Do you get what I'm saying? So I do feel sorry for Jake in that respect, but I don't know. It's really puzzling, isn't it? The whole thing that's going on at the minute.
You know, I when I spoke to one of my guys about it, I said it's kind of like somebody sitting down with the feds, and they're grassing somebody up, but they're acting like, well, I'm grassing up dead people. Nobody went to jail, so it's it's no big deal. Rahman sat down with unscrupulous business people, and he tried to do business with unscrupulous business people, meaning if you look at the contract and you see or feel that the odds are stacked against you, if you're sitting down with these people and they want a statement from you and you don't want to cooperate, you get up and you ask for an attorney. Rahman didn't turn down the fight. He agreed to it. So then you agree to it and say, but I'm going to play hardball with them after I agreed to it. I get what he was doing in principle, but in practice, it does not work.
No,
it does not work.
Not.
So
the thing is, I was really gutted about this though, as well. Only just because reason why I was gutted was because I'm desperate to give Jake credibility, but I can't until he fights someone that's a boxer.
Spot on.
And so that did let me down. Like you said with Rahman, he was willing to sit there, sign the papers, and say that he'll fight Jake Paul, but then he wanted to battle with them after. And fair enough, I know people do that. You know what I mean? They do that. Multiple boxers do that, but I'm stuck with it now, really, and I don't know what to think of it.
The only thing I can say which leaves a bitter taste, I don't even want to say that, pause. The only thing I can say I don't like about it on Jake Paul's end is you don't cancel the whole card, because then if I give you all the flowers for promoting Amanda Serrano, we just gave him, right? Because he was a part of that promotion, even though Eduardo Hearn we know who he's the, one of my guys, but you give him credit, but then you scrap the whole event because of this. Now that is what takes credibility away from me to Paul, because then you go ahead and you elevate the women to the main event. It would be Amanda's second time headlining, and you'll continue momentum. I don't see anything wrong with that. So, his questions in my mind are also, his intentions get questioned, because I got to say, well, why didn't you just let the show go on?
Yeah, because weren't you supposed to be co-main event anyway?
Exactly.
Well, there we have it. Like I said, I think in a way he spoiled it for people doing that, hasn't he? Let's be honest, he spoiled it. And like you said, that could have done a lot more for Amanda Serrano.
Maybe even spiced up the incentive, because I heard Serrano turned down the catch weight. Excuse me, she turned down a rematch at 135. She's obviously not going to go down 126, but perhaps if you gave Serrano the headline, this weekend coming, it builds the momentum for a catch weight at 130. They meet right in the middle for that rematch, and they could have even done it at the UK. But it's a lot of things you could have done that would have made more sense than canceling the entire event. At least that's in my mind.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about upcoming events. We're not getting that event, but this weekend, we do have an interesting fight, and I'm glad I got my UK brethren on here, because we got one Vergil Ortiz, who we know about Vergil Ortiz. There's at least some of us do. He's signed to Golden Boy, so there's a bit of a purgatory that comes with being signed to Golden Boy. But Michael McKinson, I know you guys Seaside know who he is.
Yeah.
If you're hardcore like me, you know who he is. But Scott, just tell the people that don't know just a little bit what you like about McKinson.
What I like about McKinson is people always go, oh, yeah, he's not a puncher, blah, blah. But every time people say that, he fucking schools them. Listen, he is probably arguably one of the best welterweights at the minute, boxer in general in the UK. I remember overlooking him. I remember thinking, yeah, but he doesn't knock people out. But the motherfucker's entertaining. Listen, he's got hands.
Yeah. I've never seen him in a fight where he wasn't bringing the pressure, bringing the action. And if he got a little too rough, he started boxing and moving. And then when it required, he'd get into the firefight, ease himself out, box a little bit. Now, he's sitting against Vergil Ortiz. I'm not saying whether I do or don't think highly of Vergil Ortiz. I just think that Vergil Ortiz could potentially, use expression I like to use, shit the bed. And give an opportunity for, Ben, and make this a UK fight with, McKinson.
I love that.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'd love that. But then I saw an interview. This was time ago from Conor Benn, and he said, "Why would I want to fight an awkward southpaw right now in my career?" That's what he said, and it made me think. Well, didn't you say you want these hard fights? And if Conor Benn want a hard fight, Michael McKinson is your fight for you.
Yeah. And I think, matchmaking, that's the one trick of boxing. Matchmaking allows for fighters to, let's use this word carefully, avoid those tough fights en route to being built into a prize fighter. And you lose a bit of experience. And it's funny because that's really a stateside route. He used a stateside tactic because in the UK you don't usually hear that, and you see these guys going head up. Last weekend I just watched Chamberlain and CBS. You know what I'm saying? And they all got history with Reactpor, and everybody wants in. Whereas on the state side of things, it's like, nah, if I don't have to take that fight, I don't want him. I only want this one, that's how you build a prize fighter, but. It gets tricky because us fans are left not getting what we want. So,
Yeah.
But ultimately, what do you think of the outcome, Vergil Ortiz? Do you fancy Vergil Ortiz in here?
Do you know what? Yeah, I think again another guy that is so fucking entertaining. I've never not liked any of his fights. Always been entertained by him, and I think there is a strong percent. I give it 60-40 for both of them. I give 40 McKinson and 60% of Ortiz.
And I like that, and I want to be. I want to just jump out the window because if I land, then I'm considered a genius. But Ortiz is too vulnerable for me in this particular fight, and that awkward southpaw is going to bring the pain. Now,
Definitely.
The fight's in Texas, so it can't go to the cards. But if Ortiz is obviously being outboxed and he gets hurt by some of those punches again, not to get but just visibly hurt and not being able to recover or protect himself from the awkward southpaw, I like my UK guy in this one.
Yeah,
so
that's what I mean. I mean, what McKinson has to do, though, if it is going to go to the judges, blah blah blah, he has to make it so unanimous. He has to make it look sweet. Yeah. Just absolutely box like Usyk with AJ. He needs to do that. Just box his head off completely, like he does anyway. Mm-hmm. And like I said with McKinson, he can adapt to any situation. He could be a rough guy. He can also get in there and be all tufty with you, and then he can go back to boxing midway through the fight.
People like comparisons. To me, he's like a white Terrence Crawford.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, good. Yeah.
He's got the tools. He can switch up. He can change speeds, control the tempo at a bout. He does a lot of different things, and you have to watch it to see. To me, he got a little bit of Bud Crawford in him, and I like that.
Yeah. I like Crawford. Huge fan of Crawford. In fact, I pick him against Spence.
Thank you, because that's where we're going. Because we're in the welterweight division, so I need your pick. You got Crawford over Spence. Tell me why.
Definitely. I think Spence has shown weakness in fights. Spence has shown weakness. Crawford, all I get from him is warrior. All the time in his fights, I just see it straight through him. And not only that, he if I'm not mistaken, he's older. Mm-hmm. And that can sometimes be an edge, I think, as well.
Yeah, I'm split on this one, but I have to insist that Bud Crawford is going to win, and it's nothing against Earl Spence. I think Earl Spence is the total package. But if I just is splitting hairs, we're talking about luxury vehicles. Like, do you want the Rolls Royce truck or the Bentley truck? Depends on your preference. I'd like Terrence Crawford because I think when you talk about that subtle difference, Terrence Crawford has a willing vulnerability. I don't see many holes in his game. I see a willing vulnerability in terms of just not caring about exchanging and being able to take a good punch and also being able to give it.
Yeah.
The only hole in Spence's game that I've ever seen is just the slight, and I don't know what it was. It's just like a little thing to where I don't know, is he applying the pressure or is he thinking about applying the pressure? And so just a glimpse of that. I'm not even going to take it to outside of the ring where I could say that the judgment to get behind a wheel in that state, and it probably wasn't his first time. Not even going to go that far, but let's just keep it to in the ring and say that slight moment where there was a confusion and Ugas hit him. You just kind of you know,
That's
you
what
don't
I'm
see,
talking about. Yeah. And
you
that's
don't
where
see
I see
Terrence
the
Crawford do that.
vulnerability.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
And that's where I see the weakness at the same time. This is what I was on. Spence has shown the weakness and he's been caught and stuff. Whereas with Crawford, he's like a fucking ball sometimes in fights. He's fine. He's absolutely fine.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Great stuff, man. Before we go, I want to play a little quick game with you, and then I want you to plug yourself, man. I want to,
All right.
we already hit Spence Crawford, but I you know, a little quick game. Upcoming fights or bouts potentially. They may or may not happen, but who you got?
All right.
All right. Devin Haney and Vasil Lomachenko. Who you got?
Devin Haney.
I
believe Lomachenko's left it too late.
Okay. This one, they've actually been talking about it, and he requested it as perhaps his next bout. Lomachenko and Shakur Stevenson.
I'm going to go with Lomachenko, though.
Okay. I respect that.
So only because like I said, he's young, so is Devin. But I think, I don't know, I sense an upset in that fight, in a fight like that. I sense an upset where people are going to be, you know, boosting it up, saying Shakur Stevenson, and then what do you know, Loma's won.
And again, I could respect that because I didn't count Lomo out, but I brought him down a peg.
Yeah.
And man, what he did to Nakatani, I said, respectfully, my Ghanaian brother, he beat the shit out of Richard Comey. Yeah.
These Ukrainians upset everyone.
So I'm going to ease off that, and I would love to see that fight. And I'm glad Shakur wants to challenge himself, you know, should that fight avail itself for the opportunity.
All respect, Shakur.
We're going to throw one more out there, man. And we don't know if this one can happen, but let's just see. Dillian Whyte, Daniel Dubois. Who you got?
That's really hard for me because I'm a Dillian Whyte fan. I'm a fan of the body snatcher, but he's getting on now, and I'd have to pick Dubois.
Yeah, I think, you know, it'd be hard to go against Whyte because he's a veteran and he's so battle tested. But I just think that Dubois is on his way up.
Yeah,
he's on his way up, and I think, again, the loss he took against Joyce, it made him stronger, and he looks it. And all the questions people had about him, kind of, I mean, he's still young, but I sense some maturity in Dubois that I would love to see him flourish. And I think a fight like that with a Dillian Whyte to the moon for him, you know?
Yeah, I see it going exactly like the Trevor Bryan fight, to be honest.
Yeah. All right. Listen, man, great stuff with you today. What I want you to do is tell people where they can find you, tell people where they can support you, tell people where they can come and pick your brain and know about your boxing IQ, brother. Tell them where you at.
Yeah. All you have to do is just follow my Instagram, scotty.boxing, and you'll see it all from there. My fights, everyone's fights.
Awesome. Awesome. Listen, man, thank you for joining me. You know, we're going to always keep in touch. We always get a good banter back and forth around the fight time. And listen, like I told y'all guys, good sparring. You need great work. This brother will be back on here with me. And, you know, anybody that has any questions, any comments, go check him out on his IG, support him, support me, support us, support boxing. All right.
All the way.
Listen, I'm going to take us out of here with the bell. You guys know King Amin of Essex on Twitter, on Instagram. And everywhere where there is boxing, I am there.